like Canada was an extraordinary 4.5-hour marathon, a fantastic win. And, to come, from the back of the, not only was it 4.5 hours and extraordinary and challenging or whatever, but I think, Jenson was at the back of the field 2 or 3 times in that race and came through in that spectacular way. So
and collided with his teammate.
It was an extraordinary race. I think one thing, talk about that collision. I think one of the greatest things of that day really was, Lewis, who was having a difficult season, very easy in those circumstances to become either paranoid or concerned about your teammate or the team or whatever, and inevitably in the walk back to the garage, as you would imagine, the friendly media were going to accost him and try and get him to say something against his teammate. You get out of a car, you're hot and sweaty, the adrenaline's rushing, you've just been slammed into the wall having made contact with your teammate. It's very, very easy to cast aspersions, to let emotions run. And Lewis, I've got to say, one of my proud moments of him this year was just when people said, your teammate took you out. What do you think about that? His response was straight away and natural and automatic, and this was before he'd got back to the team. Look, I know Jenson, we had an accident, but he would not have done that deliberately, period. So, it's unfortunate, but it was not deliberate. And there are not many teams where such an incident wouldn't have resulted in recrimination. In fact, interesting enough, some minutes later, the race was stopped. And it was one of those bizarre situations where halfway through a race you're stood with your 2 drivers, having a cup of tea and a banana, and they're talking about it in the middle of the race, effectively, openly, and again, absolutely no recrimination. So I was very proud of that, and obviously I was very proud of the job that Jenson then went on to do on the circuit, which was great. So we've had some great moments. I think Sebastian has driven supremely this year. I think one of those classic cases that happen where a driver wins a world championship and grows in stature and confidence, and I think has been supreme in his capability. I mean, Mark Webber, I've got a lot of enthusiasm for Mark Webber, and I think he's a very good driver. I think he's got a good attitude, and he's certainly not a quitter. But he's been eclipsed by Sebastian, and that's a measure of the job that Sebastian has done this year. But Sebastian's also had a pretty handy piece of equipment. Now, I think Adrian, and I've obviously known Adrian for a long time and worked with Adrian. I think he's done a great job, and that's the challenge. Inevitably, he's had 2 great years, and he'll be aiming on a 3rd, and we'll be aiming on ending that streak next year, and that's the nature of Formula One. And I think it's exciting why, we've had quite a long and tough season, but one of the things that I enjoy, to a sense, is what's happening at the moment, which is a process by which, we develop a product upon which our hopes, aspirations, glory or lack of, and frustration will rest next year when we go into a championship. And I think we've got every opportunity to go out there and win races. We've got great drivers, great team, and hopefully we'll have a great car. But at the same time, I know that Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, Lotus, all these other teams are there. So there's a lot of teams that are expecting to be stood on the top step of the podium on many occasions next year, and that's the exciting challenge.
There's never a good time for a good engineer to leave a team from the team's perspective. And John's departure now, is that
well, he's not actually departing now. I think
in terms of how much he's going to be inputting to the team.
No, John has. He's a very level-headed individual. I think he's a good quality human being, and I think he's made a good contribution to this team. I think we've got there's an aero department which is fairly sizable, and John was in a sort of managerial position of that function. He wasn't the man who had to design the car. that's on the shoulders of others. So I think it's a loss in one sense, it's an opportunity in another. I think we've got sufficiently good quality people that's his impending departure gives opportunity for someone else to step up to the plate, grow and develop, and make their mark on how we develop racing cars.
What is your plan for the aero department? Will it remain integral to this site in which we're speaking, or are there plans to do a separate aero department, a bit like Williams, for example?
No, the aero department is the aerodynamic designers live with vehicle design, simulation, race engineering in an open plan office, as you know, not too far.
Well, I meant wind tunnel, more really, I guess.
Sorry,
the wind tunnel is what I was really referring
to. We're looking at a new wind tunnel at the moment, and that will be within. There's a reasonable amount of land around us that we own.
Oh, great.
So it'll be within easy strike, within walking distance of where we currently sit.
But how much of the wind tunnel you have at the moment, though, has got the imprint of Adrian Newey, in the sense that was a tunnel that he obviously knew well and worked with, and presumably was quite happy with when he was here?
Yeah, no, and I think we all were. I mean, it's not that old. It's still a great wind tunnel, and we use it still today.
Yeah.
But the nature of competition, you review these things, and you continue to develop your capability. Each year, regulations are introduced to slow the cars up, and each year, the engineering team, and often largely the aerodynamics team, are tasked with finding that performance. This winter, we are losing what are known as blown diffusers. And yet, clearly, and they are very powerful, they've been developed into very powerful additions to the aerodynamic performance of the car, but we'd all expect the cars to be as quick next year despite that loss, and that's the eternal challenge. That the regulations change, we have to respond to it and see how we can find that performance again.
Martin, great pleasure talking to you as ever. Thank you very much for being so open and lucid on so many different subjects.
Okay.
Best of luck in 2012.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks.